Look at that. I'm learning things about Restream every day. I muted myself during the intro video. Forgot to unmute it, and Restream was like, "Hey, man, you're muted." So thanks, Restream. Happy Monday, everybody, from the Fly the W studio. It's Chris Strubb here in downtown Greenville, South Carolina. It's a little late for a live stream. I kind of lost track of time. I was going to stream before, and quite honestly, I've been just looking at stuff on Instagram for an hour, and then decided that the clock is ticking. There's just over 38 hours to go until Joe Biden is sworn in. And I wanted to make sure that I went on the record here before Trump's term ends and expressed a few thoughts. I think we get so caught up sometimes in the immediacy of the moment. I think we get so caught up in the ephemerality of Instagram stories or fleets or even Facebook posts that just vanish into the ether when the algorithm says that they're done. That sometimes we forget the gravity of our words. We feel like we can just say something and in a matter of hours, if not minutes, those words are gone. And even though I'm babbling a little bit tonight, I did feel it was important for me to come on across all my social media channels and just sort of express my feelings on the last 4 years and just be truthful and honest about how I feel about things. And I prefer to do this on video and specifically on live video because in that ephemerality and that vacuum that is the set of social media algorithms that run our world these days, it's also become way too simple to castigate people for their opinions and their words when all they are is another post in the never-ending avalanche of content out there. And so I encourage you to comment on everything that I'm saying tonight, but I also challenge you as you're watching this either live or on replay to look into my eyes as I'm saying these things and see where I'm coming from. Because again, I love writing. I do. But I also really miss the opportunity to actually talk to people and to see people. And back in the day, back when we were young, I had the opportunity to travel around the United States a number of times and meet with a lot of really brilliant people from, I'm absolutely certain, every part of every spectrum that there is. And, when you road trip as a young single guy, sleeping in your car and everything in Walmart parking lots, you meet a lot of people above and beyond the scope of the nonprofits that you are working with. And I feel like, especially now in the last year, kind of lost touch with the country a little bit. And quite honestly, and what I'm going to do here is, first of all, if you're watching on Facebook or wherever you're watching, please feel free to comment, say hello. I'm not seeing too many comments, but I'm going to put the comments up on the screen here. I see a couple comments from Periscope. Trump leaving? Yeah. Ted Scheckler says, so you've live streamed in all 50 states. Where did you set up in Wyoming? Boys and Girls Club of Cheyenne, of course. Got to get your copy of 50 States, 100 Days, the book. That's where I met Abby. Tiffany says, hi, Chris. Hi. David says, hey, Chris. Hey, buddy. David's watching from the loo. That's a joke from the last live stream. Okay, let me get into this. I remember exactly where I was on election night 2016. In fact, in Louisville, Dave. I was sitting in a common area in the 800 building where I lived on an upper floor with a six-pack. And I, like many others, was surprised to see that that Hillary Clinton had lost. I think we were all pretty surprised. I think obviously, I think Hillary was surprised. I think Trump was surprised that he won. It was a very weird night. It was a very weird night because I had spent most of 2016 insisting, and there's tweets to this effect. So you find me on the record if you look this up. I was 1000% sure that Donald Trump wasn't going to be the president. No way. No way. That's just not who we are. It's not representative of America. That's just, no, it's not possible. It's not possible. And as 2016 droned on, again, I was living in Louisville at the time, so I was actually a registered voter in the state of Kentucky, the ruby red state of Kentucky, in 2016. There was a chance. There started to be more of a chance. And then, of course, it was election night 2016 that we all were like, whoa, this is really going to happen. And I've been open and honest with you guys over the years. Growing up in high school, studied economics. When I became old enough to vote, I registered as a Republican. I've voted Republican a number of times over the years. I'm originally from New York, went to school in Binghamton. I was in the newsroom for election night 2008. Never remember that night. No, never forget that night. I will always remember that night. I remember, and I've written about this. I remember sitting in a chair next to Calvin Stovall, who was the executive editor of the Press and Sun Bulletin, and I was the kid. I was Skippy in the newsroom. We're all watching on a TV that's about the size of my laptop here in front of me, maybe smaller actually, and watched as America elected its first Black president. And it was awesome. I mean, you think about hundreds and hundreds of years of American history, really culminating in many ways in that moment. And I remember being scared. I remember being scared for Obama because I knew back in 2008 which would have made me, 23 at the time. I knew back in 2008 that there are a lot of mentally unstable people out there. I knew back in November 2008 that there was this deeply troubled underpinning of white America that I honestly thought, it's going to sound awful to say this, but I did not think that President Obama was going to physically survive his 4 years in office in his first term. Didn't think it was going to happen. I wouldn't have said that out loud then, but I didn't think that even then that white America could tolerate a black president. I know how messed up that sounds. And of course, Obama was reelected in 2012. And regardless of your thoughts on Obama, I think we would all agree that we're all thankful that nothing happened to him or to Michelle or to his kids. You know what I mean? Like, that alone, to me, even then, felt like a miracle. I feel like what's happened since the election of Donald Trump in November 2016 is in some ways worse than an assassination. You know, I don't know if anybody's even watching right now. If you are, you can put an emoji in the comments or something. If you're just listening, that's cool too. I knew in 2016 that Donald Trump was a bad person. I watched the debates. I watched the Republican debates. I watched his debates with Hillary Clinton. And what I saw publicly there was more than enough to know that this man couldn't be president. Even before that, we had all seen this birtherism lie that he had watered and fostered for years, that was just agitating that putrid stench of white America that I feared back on election night of 2008. And then a couple weeks before election night, I don't remember the exact dates. It's getting kind of late. I apologize. I could have made notes on this. And it's past 10 p.m. now. Hopefully the kids are asleep and not listening. The Access Hollywood tape came out. And I will never, ever understand how we as a country saw that tape before the election. How, whatever it was, 70 million plus Americans in 2016 saw that tape and decided that this was someone who could be the president of the United States. That tape alone, on top of just the repulsive, disrespectful, horrifying. Can you block people? Can you block people in? Can you block people in Restream? Oh, this is something I'm going to have to figure out how to do too. No, Obama did not make racism worse. Climb back in your hole, buddy. See, this is something I'm going to have to figure out because I don't want that on my screen here. I don't want it. And I'm probably making it worse by making the situation worse by saying something. I don't think you can. I was in Arizona in January 2017 when Trump was inaugurated. And I remember watching his inauguration speech at one of my friend Steve's rental properties. And the president-elect, then I guess the president, talked about American carnage in the streets. And today, lo and behold, well, today nothing really hits home with anybody, does it? Headline after headline. We'll get there in a minute, but American carnage in the streets. I remember feeling deeply offended by that. I remember saying, that's not what presidents say. I could give a better speech than this. What are we talking about? American carnage in the streets? The next day, the president's press secretary, Sean Spicer, came out and just started screaming lies at the top of his lungs about the size of the president's inauguration crowd. This is the biggest crowd in the history of presidential inaugurations in person and around the world ever. Lie. Just a lie. Just facts don't matter. Just say whatever you want. And when you repeat it over and over again, people will eventually believe you, right? Just a lie. And now 4 years later, again, I keep yada, yada, yadaing over the crux of all of this. Four years later, I wish that the biggest lie that we'd heard was about an inauguration crowd. Nobody cares about that anymore. Because in the 4 years since Donald Trump became president, the degradation of our society, of our culture, of our standing in the world is immeasurable. It's absolutely immeasurable. And there are a million different ways that you could go in thinking about this. I think the saddest moment for me of the Trump presidency was in 2017. After the riots in Charlottesville. I was out in Melville on Long Island. I don't remember exactly why, but I was heading to a FedEx. I needed to print something out or make copies or something. And I had CNN on Sirius XM on my radio. And I was listening to the press conference. And I was in the FedEx parking lot, ready to go in and do whatever I needed to do. And I left the press conference on. And I heard it in real time. I heard it as he was speaking the words. That there were very fine people on both sides. This coming just, I think it was a day after the death of Heather Heyer, who was peacefully protesting when a car driven by a white supremacist murderer slammed into the crowd and killed her. And our president made a point to say that in Charlottesville on that day, there were, quote, very fine people on both sides. In 2017, I was living at home on Long Island, and I remember when the president fired the FBI director, Jim Comey. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is it. Can't get away with that. You can't do that. You can't fire the FBI director. And what did the president do after he fired the FBI director? He went on NBC with Lester Holt and told the entire world exactly why he fired the FBI director. And I said to myself when that happened, I said, this is game over. This is it. He's done. He's toast. Forget about it. The corruption is incomprehensible, right? Nope. Nope, that wasn't good enough either. And we just suck that up, and we internalize and we normalize the firing of the FBI director. We normalize eventually the firing of the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who wasn't exactly a liberal hero. Mighty Jeff Sessions, senator from Alabama, the first senator to endorse Donald Trump on his way to the White House. We fire Jeff Sessions. Let's bring in William Barr. Okay, we got William Barr. All right. So now we've got the independent counsel, Bob Mueller, brought in to investigate the president's connections with Russia. The Mueller investigation took forever. Forever. And in the Mueller report, which I read from cover to cover, and I challenge you to read as well, Mueller insists that what he's writing does not exonerate the president. Does not exonerate the president. And based on some complicated legalese, we find out that we can't charge a sitting president. Okay. We get to 2019. I would like you to do us a favor, though. The President of the United States just elbowing the new Ukrainian president. I would like you to do us a favor, though. Bam. Impeached. But did the Republican Senate want to hear witnesses in the trial? Do you think there was any chance that Mitch McConnell would even want to hear any of the facts? No. Of course not. This is all part of the hoax. It's all part of the hoax. So we just let it go. We just internalize. Just no problem. Just let it ride, right? Who cares? Who cares? It's just the United States. I mean, who cares, right? We get to 2020, January. Word of a novel coronavirus seemingly originating in China reaches the desk of the president. The president decides, doesn't matter. It's not here in the US. Who cares? No big deal. We get to February. And the news reports just very slowly start to pick up steam. The headlines start getting just a few point sizes bigger each day throughout February. It's a leap year. I'm out in San Diego the end of February. And by the end of February, I'm starting to freak out a little bit. But I'm not the president. It's not my job to protect and defend every American. The president knew in February of 2020 how awful this coronavirus could be. Bob Woodward, one of the famous journalists credited with taking down President Richard Nixon back in the day, has audio tapes of the president speaking about just how dangerous and how lethal the coronavirus, COVID-19, can be in February of 2020. The president knew that this virus could be a worst case scenario. And instead of doing anything, literally anything, to prepare the country for what was possible, just shrug it off, sweep it under the rug, and keep on playing golf. Because you know what? Back in 2016, 2017, when the president came into office, you think he cared to keep hold of the playbook that his predecessor and his team had built around a possible pandemic? Hell no. So what happened in March 2020? Oh, I think now we're back on board, right? Absolute hell. Absolute hell raining down on my home state of New York. Absolute hell. And not just New York, of course. The pandemic was quickly settling in all around the world. Italy, France, everywhere. There are places other than Europe as well. But in New York, March into April, absolute hell. You know why? Because the president decided not to do anything with the information that he had dating back to January and February of last year. In fact, the president went out of his way to downplay and to make sure that he emphasized publicly just how meaningless and how toothless this virus was. In fact, when there was a cruise ship off the coast of Washington State, the president was cited on camera as saying that he wanted to just leave people on the ship because, quote, I like the numbers just the way they are. I think that was the moment I sort of lost my mind with this virus. You know, again, you want to look at sort of the lowest of the low points of what we've all lived through with this president over the last 4 or 5 years. I go back to the Access Hollywood tape. I go back to the Lester Holt NBC interview talking about firing James Comey. I go back to I would like you to do us a favor, though. And I go back to just leave him on the ship because I like the numbers just the way they are. And this is a very abridged version of the history of President Donald Trump. Lie after lie after lie. Taking a printout of a projected hurricane cone and drawing on it with an actual Sharpie. A Sharpie. Just boop. Just draw a little loop. And that brings me to another low point that happened in 2020. In the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd, and in the national convection oven that was a summer marked by a global pandemic, I remember sitting here just for hours and hours watching in horror the protests that were taking place in Minneapolis, and then the cascading effect that happened all across the United States. And I'll never forget, because I live on Twitter. I love Twitter. I will never forget how broken I felt when the president wrote, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." When the looting starts, the shooting starts. As horrible as everything has been in the last 12 months, especially, it is a testament to the courage and to the recalcitrant fortitude of our country, what remains of it, that tweet didn't spiral us into an actual civil war last summer. I honestly felt like we were hanging on by a thread. And all these moments get lost because when you add everything up, the emotional weight and the gravity of what we've faced, it's too much to sum up. It's too much to sum up. I I much prefer speaking in 10 to 15-second sound bites. Twitter videos, recorded videos, have a maximum time length of 140 seconds, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And I've gotten very used to speaking in that format. But as the final hours of the Donald Trump presidency tick down, I felt it was important to come on and express my fuller thoughts and just reflect on the calamitous, just psyche destroying moments that have marked this presidency. Hang on. So I forgot to plug in the camera. And so now you're stuck with this camera. So I got to look down here. It's okay. It's probably a sign that I need to wrap things up anyway. I think what I'm most discouraged about is the rampant omnipresence of the coronavirus across our country at this very moment. It appears in the last few days, maybe, that new cases are starting to level off a little bit after the holiday season. Thank goodness. But the catastrophic failure of the US government to take proper actions last spring have led to this continuing disaster. There's no other way to put it. Anyone who's complaining about what's happening now, this is a product of our collective impatience as a nation last spring. And that collective impatience was born from not just an absence of leadership, but an actual just disdain. That's the word I was looking for, an abdication of duty. From a president who, oh God, the horrifying moments keep coming back to me. They keep coming. Every time I feel like I want to wrap this video up, there's just another horrible moment that comes to mind. When we collectively realized as a nation that we needed to wear masks to help suppress and to stop the virus. The day that the president came out on, in the press room and declared that he just wouldn't wear a virus because he just didn't feel, or he wouldn't wear a mask because he didn't feel like it. We wonder why tens of millions of Americans won't wear a mask today. There it is. I don't even understand. You want to grift? You want to make money? Make Trump masks. No? And then the worst Trump coronavirus moment of them all. I don't remember the exact day. I think was it October that the president contracted COVID himself after holding dozens of in-person events and rallies around the country, super spreader events, including one that killed Herman Cain. President gets airlifted off to Walter Reed after just lie after lie after lie about his health status. God, I forgot to talk about Dr. Ronnie Jackson. That could be a whole video on its own. But I think it was like a Friday night, and the president decided that he wanted to get into a presidential limo while at the peak of his sickness with COVID and make Secret Service agents drive him around just so he could wave to the cameras. What? What do you mean he's driving around the block? Kidding me? I could do a video like this every night for a month, and I think I would find myself talking about different things every time. But someday in the distant future, if there is a distant future, I'll come back and rewatch or re-listen to this. And I'll be grateful that I knew to stand up and say something. What has happened in the last 4 years is not okay. The Access Hollywood tape was not okay. Saying there's fine people on both sides, not okay. Lying about the lethal nature of COVID-19, not okay. Telling the president of Ukraine, I need you to do us a favor, though, not okay. saying that you'll happily accept the results of the presidential election if you win, not okay. Fomenting an insurrection at the Capitol, and I think there's still a lot more facts that are going to come out about that. Not okay. And I don't think that everything's just going to be okay at noon on Wednesday either. But I do think that the departure of Donald Trump from office, which should have happened years ago, will be a step in the right direction for our country. I appreciate you watching and listening. My name's Chris Streb. Sorry, my nice camera died, so you had to look at me from an alternate angle here. Gotta have to see. I gotta remember to plug the thing in. That would have been disastrous when I was doing my show. My new live show, The Social Good Hour, which was supposed to launch today, it is delayed. We're planning to launch next Monday. Stay tuned for a more official announcement and the graphics and the time and all that stuff. But that should be an every Monday thing starting next week. I'll remember to charge my camera. And if you guys have questions or comments, you can leave them here on whatever platform you're watching, or certainly you can email me, chrisstrub@gmail.com. You can always find me across social media at Chris Strub, and appreciate you guys being here. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.